I once got a job to install a security system in an old house. The family that moved in there had a little 5-year-old-ish boy. The boy was playing around by himself, and he would sometimes ask random questions to what seemed like me. I answered one of his questions, and I remember him telling me, "Oh, sorry, I was just talking to my friend." The mother poked her head in and told me that he had found a new friend since they moved in. She then leaned in closer and jokingly said, "It's actually kind of creepy." Later that day, the boy was in the kitchen playing, and he was trying to reach a bag of chips on top of their fridge. I told him he should probably get down off the counter, and I could get them down for him. He proceeds to get down and say, "Oh, my friend will get it." I just kind of shrugged it off and went back to working on running the cable through the wall. All of a sudden, the bag of chips explodes on the floor. I turned around, thinking the kid must have gotten back on the counter, but instead he was on the floor picking up the chips. He gave me a look and said, "My friend accidentally knocked them off." I asked the boy where his friend was now, and he pointed on top of the fridge and said, "He is right up there smiling at you." I never got such a freaky chill in my life. Kind of long, but my experience requires some backstory. The ambulance company I used to work for had a haunted ambulance, Rig 12. A lot of EMTs had their own stories about it, mostly involving weird noises coming from the patient compartment or the electronics going haywire, but I never put much stock in paranormal stuff. My personal experience was when my partner and I were in Rig 12 and posted in a rural community at 3 a.m., so it was pitch dark and dead quiet. We were both dozing up in the cab. I was in the driver's seat, and she was in the passenger seat. I woke up to a muffled voice and initially thought my partner was trying to talk to me. I told her I was trying to sleep, rolled over toward the window, and closed my eyes again. Then I distinctly heard a male voice say, "Oh my God, am I dying?" Followed by what sounded like heavy breathing for a couple seconds, then complete silence. My partner and I both sat straight up and looked back into the patient compartment, where it sounded like it came from. It was quiet for a couple seconds. Then we heard the click of an oxygen bottle regulator and hissing like it was leaking. I turned on the compartment lights, and we both piled out of the rig. Initially, I thought a transient may have climbed in the back while we were asleep and was messing with stuff. So we walked around to the back of the rig and opened up the back doors. No one was back there. I checked both oxygen bottles. Neither were opened. Needless to say, we kept the lights on in the rig and didn't sleep much after that. I don't know if I believe in hauntings, but I guess it would make sense for an ambulance to be haunted. Rig had been in service with various agencies for over a decade, and had probably seen its fair share of patients die in the back. I rode in it a couple shifts after that, but nothing else strange happened that I recall. I have been in haunting situations, but my dad has actually seen one. He was asleep one night, many years ago, sleeping over at his boyfriend's house. He woke up and said he was immediately scared. He saw a man, very short and black-colored, blacker than the pitch-dark room, walk up to the foot of his bed, rest his elbows upon the bed, and put his head in his hands. My dad nudged his boyfriend and asked, "Are you awake?" And he said, "Yes." And my dad said, "Can you see it?" And he replied, "He's been standing in the corner for 20 minutes, and I couldn't wake you up." I wish I was joking. I slept over at my buddy's house. I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of a woman crying coming from right outside his bedroom. I figured it was his mom arguing with another family member. So at first I felt very awkward rather than scared. Then things began getting more intense. She started screaming, $7. You did this for $7. And as she began getting louder and louder, I thought I might need to intervene before someone got hurt. I stood up, walked to the door, grabbed the handle, then opened the door. Instant, dead silence. Every sound I heard died in a heartbeat. It went from being in a World War II war zone to being able to hear a mouse fart. Outside his room, every light in his house was off. There was no one else awake. Nothing. I still can't explain what happened. I woke my friend up, and he told me he once saw a lady in a white gown walking up his steps and thought it was his mom, but when she didn't respond to him calling out to her, he followed her up the stairs, and when she turned a corner, she disappeared. Then, one day, when they are moving out of this house, his cousin and sister arrive at the new house after grabbing some things from the old one and telling everyone that they swore they saw a girl in a white gown standing at upstairs window as they pulled out of the driveway. Me and my friend never told anyone about our stories, so his cousin and sister said they saw what they saw without any prior knowledge of the situation.
One weekend, I was at my dad's house. He'd come to the upstairs bathroom to get a shave and heard footsteps in my stepsister's room. I thought it was him walking around initially, so I got up to find him standing at her closed door. He looks back at me and whispers, "You can hear that too, right?" I nodded, and he opened the door slowly. My stepsister was asleep and had never been awake. Apparently, there was no way she could have crossed the room, gotten in bed, and pretended to be that convincingly asleep in the 2 seconds it took my dad to open the door. He went in, checked her TV, which had never been on. She had one of those big ones from the 90s that would get warm when turned on, and the radio hadn't been on either. He figured maybe it was the beat of a song or something. After that, we heard the footsteps a bunch of times, usually very early in the morning. Some of the footsteps were so heavy, they'd shake the ceiling fan of the dining room directly under her bedroom, and they'd wake her up a few times as well. Whenever I'd shower at my dad's, I always felt like someone was standing behind me. Eventually, I got so stressed and paranoid that I refused to shower at the house or even go into the upstairs bathroom. My dad asked me one day, "Do you ever feel like someone's in the shower with you when you're here?" After months of me feeling that way and never mentioning it to anyone.
Until about April of this year, I did not believe in ghosts. Now I'm getting to the point where I may admit that they do. A family member moved into a new house. It's 17th or 18th century, split into several flats, has a crypt in the garden, a stone plaque on the bedroom wall with a prayer, and stone arches in the hallway. That's all fine and logical, but there's loads of weird stuff that happens there. On occasion, if a classical CD is in the radio or CD player, it switches from the radio station to the CD. It has done it twice now. So we took the CD out. There are cold patches and breezes, like you can be fine one moment when you get a really cold breeze, and sometimes it's only over part of you. And sometimes you can actually feel the cold air blowing, even if all the windows and doors are shut, and there is no draft. There is a weird stagnant smell that has a tinge of cheesy feet that appears randomly in the house for varying amounts of time. It can also follow you from room to room. The person doesn't smell. It just follows them for a minute, then goes. Strange noises. The latch on the door giggles sometimes. A hollow tapping noise can be heard from the wall sometimes, but they are solid stone, and if you tap them, it doesn't make a noise. Sounds of something heavy being dragged on wood, and the sound of a plastic bottle have been heard, but nothing has happened. Now that could all, I'm sure, have a logical explanation, but it gets creepier. Other people who live there have had weird experiences in which they've thought their partner has come home early from a night shift because the door made a noise. The lights went on in several rooms, and then off again after a while. One woman got so freaked out in the early hours of the morning she had to go see the landlady, and the cleaning lady was too freaked out by one of the rooms, the one with the plaque. The landlady has hinted at things being off, or strange with the house, and she seems to accept these strange goings-on, as she has lived there for 16 years. The absolute worst part is that we recently found out that the plaque with the prayer, which, by the way, seems to loosely resemble "Now I lay me down to sleep," actually marks a wall crypt, in which we have no idea who lies there. We suspect from the measurements of the area and the prayer that it may be a child, but we have no idea. You can see through a foot square cut out in the wall that the brickwork is different where the crypt is, like it has been placed up to close it all off. It's super creepy, and given everything going on, I'm starting to believe in ghosts.
So in high school, I worked kids' birthday parties. The place was basically a giant gym, and gymnastics and dance classes were also held there. One day, I came in, and one of the girls I worked with, who was very spiritual and very religious, was totally freaked out. During the gymnastics class she taught that morning, one of the kids was staring up at the ceiling. When she asked the kid what he was doing, he said, "There's a little boy up there," and pointed at the ceiling. Strange enough, but whatever. Kids are weird. Later, two girls who were working a birthday party before mine came out of the gym and were visibly shaken. A pair of 5-year-old twins went down a slide and then stared at the ceiling. They both said that there was a little boy up there, in the same spot on the ceiling as the kid from the morning gymnastics class. We all went in and inspected the ceiling. Of course, it was just a regular, gray, warehousey ceiling, but we were all super freaked out at that point. During my party, I was pushing a little boy on the giant swing we had in the gym. He, too, began to stare at the ceiling. He said directly to my face, "Hey, there's a little boy up there." We told all of our coworkers and managers about the 3 separate experiences we had today with children from different parties and classes seeing a little boy on the ceiling. The next day, we had downtime between parties, and nobody was in the gym. There are cameras in the gym that allow parents to see their children playing from the lobby. My manager called us out of the break room and said, "Guys, check this out." We come out and see the screen, which is streaming from the gym, showing that giant swing going back and forth. Nobody's in there. It's just the swing going. I like to think that the ghost was truly a little boy who just wanted to play, and he finally got to go on the swing. Could be worse.
There have been several experiences in my family, and I have personally seen some kind of translucent blue figure in my room when I was younger, and my mom claims to have seen a young girl in her room at night once. The biggest experience, though, and the one that really converted me involved my youngest brother. My brother is 13 years younger than me, and growing up, he'd often play in his room. Me and my mom would often hear him talking to somebody as if he were playing with them. Things like peekaboo, playing with his toys, etc. We thought nothing of it and that it was just like an imaginary friend or something. This went on for a few years. When he was around 5 years old, he's 12 now, he got a PlayStation and started playing video games a lot more, as well as spending more time with the friends he'd met in school. One night, while he's playing his game, me and my mom hear him screaming from his bedroom, and we rush upstairs. My brother dropped the controller with the game unpaused, something he never did, and he was on the bed where he had been sitting, and it was as if he was trying to drag himself away from something at the bottom of the bed. He was screaming, "Get off me! Get off me! And I don't want to play with you anymore," while frantically trying to get away from something. But the creepiness didn't end there because his legs were in the air awkwardly, as if something had a hold of him and was dragging him back down the bed. My mom ran over and grabbed him, carried him downstairs, and called my granddad over to basically just reassure us. We haven't had any experiences since then. Like I said, he's 12 now, and this was 7 years ago. He still remembers it happening, but he refuses to talk about it, and if it is mentioned, though we don't make a habit of it, of course, he gets very scared and has nightmares that night. It doesn't really matter what else I or my mom have seen, nothing comes close to that experience.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more scary stories.